live up to your word, you're not going to get real far in life. And if people don't believe me, listen to the other 12 or 13 shows other than the one today. You said it too. But Dave, you've got such a high level of success and you're such a focused person. You've got really a great focus on how you do what you do and still find time to do so many things for others. It's more about living up to your full potential. I mean, so today I want to not just, that's why I gave it the title that I did. I don't want to have people just think about, well, how can I be a person that does what I say? We're going to go into, let's go to the higher level. Not only do what you say, go beyond what you said. Right. And so there's other expressions, and I don't know who said it, but it's better to over deliver than over promise. You're not going to get too far in anything you do if you promise a whole lot and don't do much of what you said. And so, a soft-spoken person might just be kind of like low key about it and then blow people away with how much they actually do. And so that's always a better way to go. But so we're going to get to a higher level today. One thing I thought when you were talking about your mother and my mother, I actually thought two things. My mother had always told me, Stevie, I don't really care what you do in your life as long as it's honest. And I just thought that was as simple and as basic as they can be. It's just, she didn't care if I was a proverbial ditch digger or a dishwasher or an accountant or whatever else along the way. She just wanted me to be honest. And so I love that she passed that on. And this is kind of a personal thing, but you started it. When you said that the only two things you wanted when your dad died was the two wall hangings of Man in the Arena and was the other one, did you say Desiderata? Yeah. Well, my mother had we went through a lot of struggles. I've had 167 shows now. Talk a whole lot about, the being poor when I was coming up. My mother and I going through a lot of hard times and lessons I've learned. But she was so proud of me when she died. And in her will, she gave all of her the little money and things that she had that were material. She gave those to my brothers and sisters. And she gave me what I consider to be the ultimate compliment that a man can ever get from his mother. She said, Stevie, she says, I'm so proud of you that you've done well with your life that I'm not leaving anything at all to you except for my music collection that I had. She had accumulated about 150 of these little cassette tapes in a box with all the old beautiful music, Brenda Lee and whatever. And I just loved it. And in the house, when we took all of her stuff out of there, she had a thing that we had got. She loved to see those TV commercials and order stuff. But she had about 1.5 foot high bust, just the head, shoulders up kind of thing, of Emmett Kelly and the clown. And his trademark was he had that one tear coming down his eye. And she always said, Stevie, that's what life is. That's what life is. So, yeah, but I didn't, just like you didn't need a whole lot and, left to you because, your parents knew you. So I thank you for triggering that memory for me. Well, Dave, with that said, when I was talking to my wife today about the show that you and I are going to do, and I told her that, no, I'm going to get Dave on here to just let people know how they can reach their full potential, go even higher, because he's a role model for that. He does so much. Like you said, success isn't about money. It helps for sure. If you have it, you can do a lot with it for other people, of course. You can be a good provider. You can do good things. But it's really about, I guess your mark is what you do for other people and how you've helped other people along the path. And so you'll do well when you get to the pearly gates, because if you hadn't done anything else in your life, what you've done for me gets you there. I promise you. You can look forward to it. Yeah, but Dave, so I told Donna about people that deliver more than what they are asked to deliver. Here's an example I gave her just right away, and I hope I can do it as well right now as I did for her. So my wife wants me to build a birdhouse, or a wife, let's just say a wife, wants their husband to build a birdhouse. So he doesn't just build a little birdhouse. I was looking at one outside the window when I was talking to her, because I got a little teeny birdhouse. We get some birds in there. And I said, so what does he do? he builds an arboretum. He gets birds from all over the world, and he brings in like a bird. It's a whole bird sanctuary. He imports birds and everything, and he just does the most amazing thing to create a whole arboretum for birds. Well, that's a whole lot more than just building a birdhouse, isn't it? Well, Dave, you've built a lot of arboreums and not just a lot of little birdhouses. So what do you want to say next, Dave, about if a person does what they say they're going to do and they can deliver more than what they're asked, and they build that kind of people know them as that person, the sky's the limit for what they can do with their life. So why don't you just sort of take it from there and go anywhere you want?
Wow, that was great, and thanks for the story of your mother. That kind of rings very close to me. So I can't go down that path too far without kind of going to tears. So I have to stay away from certain subjects while I'm on the air. So that said, I think the question is, to me, or thinking back, is what triggers that behavior in certain people? And I'm thinking back over the last 30 years of people that have been successful, and if you really boil it down, it's they kind of care. They kind of care about what they're doing, and sometimes it's exasperating. Like, people that deal with you, Steve, must be exasperated because you just care so much about what you're doing, and thus that's why it comes off well, and that's why you're good at what you do. And so I say exasperated with a lot of love in my voice, but I've got people that are just incredibly close to me, been quite successful in their careers, and not making lots of money, but they're incredibly well respected. A software developer I worked with for 15 or 20 years, obviously a smart guy, but just really disciplined, and he really cares. And so what care means in that case as a software developer is, does he care about how it's not just what it does, it's how it looks. It's the flow of the software. It's what does it look like on the screen, and just really, really caring, as opposed to some people that just slap it together and they kind of somehow meet some kind of specification, but it's just not good. And so the software guys that are really good care about that. They care about how code is written, how efficient it is. Not only does it not break, but do they go beyond it? And I can remember being in business school with one of my absolute closest friends. He still is one of my closest friends, and godfather to one of my two sons. And I remember being on a project with him in business school, and I wanted to kill him because he just, to the nth degree, just when we had to print out this report, what exactly the report looked like and how it was formatted and all this. We took hours on that, and I was ready to move on. I was like, I think it's good enough. And we laughed about it years later because, he damn near killed me and him on this. But here's the point. His name is Todd. Todd so cares about the job he does. And what that means is at least in business, it boils over to how he deals with his clients. His clients know that this guy will do anything for them. He will be the guy up at 3 a.m. He'll be the guy up staying up all night working to try to do the best job he can. And consequently, you can't BS clients. They know people that are going the extra yard. So what triggers that? I wish I know, but I think it's somewhat mentoring. I remember my grandmother, and I was probably 10. Grandma Bond, because my mother's maiden name is Bond. My son's named after my mother's maiden name, Bond. But Grandma, I was vacuuming. I was vacuuming in the kitchen. I remember exactly where I was. I was vacuuming in the kitchen. I was probably 10 years old. And I was just about to finish vacuuming. And Grandma said to me in the nicest way, something like, really, it's not how fast you vacuum. It's actually how much dirt you pick up.
Yeah.
And so I'll never forget that. I mean, I was like, wow, as a 10-year-old, I've always been a pretty good vacuumer after that because my grandmother told me that. And I think about that and I go, okay, I got that lesson at 10 and I think somehow I've applied it. Now, I'm not saying I do the best job in everything I do because you always have to find balances, but I do take a little bit of pride in what I try to do. And I see the people that are just successful overall, they just care. I mean, they literally care at what they do. What triggers that? And how do you teach kids that? How do you teach adults that? I'm not exactly sure. Maybe you have thoughts on that. But, quite frankly, if you look like you care and you do care, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's the people that do, work for us, and we do a lot of our work ourselves, but if they're helping us in the yards and stuff like that, the people that really, do a good job and spend the extra 5 minutes blowing the stuff after they've cut it or whatever, boy, you just feel so good about them, because so many people don't. They don't care as much.
I think that pride is a good word. Now, you can get into the religious side of pride's an awful thing. That's one of the great sins there. But no, I'm not talking about that type of pride. I'm talking about, taking pride in what you do so that you can be proud to say that I've done the best I can. I've done a good job. And if a person doesn't have pride in their own work and they just want to do the quick and dirty, easy way out, they're going to leave a lot of dirt on the floor. I learned early out when I was a construction superintendent, when I was in college. Real quick story here. I worked really, really hard. I was just a laborer in a big construction crew in a big company. And within days, they pulled me aside and said, "Hey, Steve, we want you to manage this crew because, we like the way you work, and we want you to manage some other people." So I started doing that. And then about a week later, they said, "Hey, Steve, we got 3 crews out here. We want you to be the head of all 3 crews." And so they kept moving me up like that. Well, one of the things that I'll never forget, I went into this room. It was at West Hampton campus, University of Richmond, and we were renovating that, turning it into a Holiday Inn looking kind of place. It was a tragedy to take this beautiful old 130-year-old campus and start changing it around and making it look like it was a Holiday Inn for more people. But so I placed these 2 guys in this room, and they were in there. And then I had to keep walking around checking on people, make sure they were doing what they're supposed to. And they were in there just taking a smoke break, sitting on the floor. They had no idea that I was going to pop in the room and see how they were progressing. And they didn't take any pride whatsoever. They were just making minimum wage, basically. And so the point there was, I used to have people, when they go into all these rooms, they take out all the debris, get all the dust out, get it so the next crew could come in and paint it and put the floor in and put a carpet in. And I had to teach them how to sweep everything toward the door. You'd be shocked at people that are sweepers. They're just sweeping and putting these little piles, all over the place, furthest from the door as possible. But what I learned early out was move everything toward the door so that when you look back in the room, it's finished. And so that's a really good concept in training people, because no matter what the project is, keep the end goal in mind. And Dave, the people that are listening, I want to apologize, Cheryl. I'm not going to say that Dave is as ADD as I am, but I'm completely there. And I know that when we're talking, I went off on another thought. I started talking about my mother. I got a few tears in my eyes, and Dave did too, when he didn't even want to go any further with where I started that. But I was getting ready to read the last couple lines of Teddy Roosevelt, A Man in the Arena. And I wanted to say, Dave, that was the most wonderful thing for you to grow up in an environment where you could read and think and meditate about this, and your dad taught it to you. But I'll just pick up kind of in this last part here. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Dave, that's the whole thing right there, is that it's about putting your whole self into what you do. And we owe that to our employers. Nobody likes an employee that just gets there because he's working minimum wage. I'll let you take it back over now, but I train people. When you get that job, if you want great things in your life, don't think of it as a job. Think about it as an adventure. I sold that to the United States Navy about 35 years ago. Now, what it is think about it as a chance that you are an entrepreneur in training, and this is just part of your experience training ground. Learn everything you possibly can. Be the single most valuable employee that they've ever seen. kind of like I was telling you, I mean, I wasn't asking for promotions, but they just kept saying, hey, Steve, we want you to do this other crew than this other crew. The point is, if you give it your all and give them more than a good day's work, it's like not just do what you say you're going to do even better than you said. Yeah, Dave, if you